The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by Draftkings Sportsbook. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use promo code RTRS when you sign up. And brought to you by Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours at bigbarker.com/Ricky. And also brought to you by Stateside Urban Craft Vodka, the official sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter with Zoe. Order it online from 44 different states, almost the entire country, at statesidevodka.com. A particularly emotive Corner 3 newsletter, I thought, this morning with Zoe. Well, we got a couple of big things to talk about. The kids kind of show out tonight against the Heat. Sixers win with big games from Shake Milton, Tyrese Maxey, Isaiah Joe, and, oh, by the way, the other guys. And our first pod after the James Harden ordeal ends, we'll talk about what it means for the Sixers, what it means for Ben Simmons, so on and so forth, whether they did the right thing, other people they could go after, the value of Ben Simmons. We'll talk about all of it. Before we get going, subscribe to YouTube. I'm not going to say it again. We got to get to 4,000 subscribers. We just have to. Without any further ado, Amos and the Chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who Daryl Morey will not trade under any circumstances. He's serious this time, Mike Levin.
And it was an ordeal, wasn't it?
It was. Do we do Harden first, or we do the game first? I think
Let's
probably
do the game. This was
okay.
nice. It was a nice, easy win, 2 in a row. Yep. It was a tough few days, a week without players for the most part.
Yep.
And it's good to have almost everybody back, minus Seth and Korkmaz. But I thought, after a frustratingly close game, although a good win, for some fun random guys hitting shots in the overtime game, a nice, easy,
Big Joe game,
sizable blowout here was solid.
Yeah, I mean, you realize it when it's the Sixers, but also when it's the other team that only has 8 guys and not including their 2 best guys. It was when I was watching Miami, all I could think was like, man, they must be tired. It's the same guys in there the entire game. They must be exhausted.
Well, that's Heat culture, man. They don't get exhausted.
What's that? Wow. Well, when they're up at 3 in the morning working out, getting up shots.
They're up at 3 in the morning. They don't sleep. Part of Heat culture is not sleeping.
Yeah. I didn't read. There's a new Jimmy Butler article today. I did not read it. I did not put myself through it. Though I feel like I have to monitor it for his eventual admission that the coffee thing was bullshit. So, I mean, Shake Milton, 30 points. I forget how many Maxey ended up with.
15.
15. It seemed like he didn't miss it. Well, he made his first 6 shots, I think, Maxey did. Mm-hmm. It's starting to get, with both those guys, it's starting to get sort of regular. Almost. They seem to perform every game that they play. Milton, I think, is, obviously older, but the way he plays and the way his body is and his game in particular, I don't know what Maxey's role ends up being in the playoffs, but Milton is, I think we can safely say, is legitimate NBA guard, and on both ends. Like he's not a standout defensively, but he's also not a disaster, which he was before. And he's really feeling himself on offense, and he's a pleasure to watch.
Shake is the best player in the league. He's the best player I've ever seen. He was 11 of 15 tonight for 31 points. I I love him. I think that he's the best person I know.
You don't know him.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, just the ridiculous, like, shot making, patience, being able to, like, fight through contact now. I apologize for not believing in his weight gain in the offseason.
How could you? That's always a lie. It's never true.
It is, but I mean, when you get told by the best player that they're going to slap the shit out of you in the first playoff game.
Maybe he's just preparing for the fight with Embiid.
That could be it.
That's what the weight is.
That might be it, yeah. I mean, just, he's the best. He's so good and such a, really, like, the exact kind of player we have not had since Lou Williams in, like, a bunch of different ways. Like, he is, like, him being he's improved a great deal on the defensive end. Length, he blocked a shot tonight. He blocked a three. The Sixers have to be the best team at blocking 3-point shots in the league between Shake. I think Isaiah Joe blocked one, or maybe he didn't block a three, but between Matisse and Simmons and now Shake, and Danny does it sometimes as well. It just, Shake he's excellent. Like, 3-level scorer, patient, can put him in a pick and roll, and just, you're going to end up with something that has to be the most effective shot on this team. Like, aside from, like, wide open catch and shoot things, but as far as, like, initiating the offense, a Shake pick and roll has to be the most efficient play on this team, because he'll either get fouled, or he'll stop at the elbow and that's automatic, or he's going right at the rim or throwing a lob. Like, he's just really, really very good. I wonder if he can speed up his release, like, from three, if guys go under on a screen. I don't know, but I think he's just excellent, and we're so lucky to have him. And someone needs to give him more money so he doesn't get upset. I said it was Tobias. I think it should. I don't mind if, like, Danny gave him some money. Embiid and Simmons could also give him money. Someone needs to be giving Shake some amount of money because he's making not enough, and I am worried that he's just going to leave.
I'm going to say this. I think Danny Green's making $15 million. That dude played fucking 50 minutes the other night. He's 100 years old. Danny Green's earning every penny this year. I think the money's going to come.
I'd agree with that. He took 21 threes. That was a fun.
He's got a little he's a little ballsier. I would say that the two things off season, like moving forward, the two things from Milton that can elevate are, the release, like the speed on the release, and the passing has elevated over last year. It even seems like he's not super at it, but he seems to be figuring out where people are, and
he tries those little. He's got to get a better sense of, like, when guys step up on him and he tries little bounce passes to Embiid. It feels like he kind of, when he throws bounce passes in traffic, it feels like it like scoots away a little bit sometimes.
They're always low these are all, or in the wrong spot.
Yeah, they're low. Yeah, but these are all quibble. I mean, like, he's amazing. Like, I'm quibbling. He's so good that he makes up for so many things, and they lucked into him. They got him in the late second round. I think a couple podcasts ago I said that they didn't trade up for him. They ended up trading up 2 spots for him. I was misremembering. But he's very good.
That was Brett Brown, David Heller year. Yeah.
Or who? We'll never know. Who did we talk to? It was the Suns GM, McDonough, who wouldn't even tell us who he was negotiating with. It's like, bro, you don't even have a fucking job. Like, you're a sportscaster. Just tell us who you were talking to. And he won't tell us. And so we don't know. We'll never know. It was a collaborative situation, and I'm glad whatever, like, combined transformer got us Shake Milton. I appreciate it.
What's interesting, and I don't know if he said it on the pod or not. I talked to him afterwards. What's interesting about who McDonough was dealing with is that the person he was dealing with was not the person he was negotiating with. So I don't think he even totally knows who was on the other end making the call. So I don't even think he has an answer for that. The person that was, I can assure you of this, the person that was on the phone, because he told me, was not the person doing the negotiating. So I have no idea. Heller will take credit for all the good ones, I'm sure, and not the bad ones. If you're listening to this, David Heller. I'm sorry, but
I was told that the front office was chanting Shake's name when they traded up for him at 54.
Really?
Like, if you like him this much that you're chanting his name, why are you hoping he gets to 54?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But
Right.
it worked out. Thank God. He's the best player I've ever seen in my life. Lifetime contract. I would do anything for him. The person that makes me the most consistently happy in my life is Shake Milton. God bless him.
We haven't had a guy to perform on the quote unquote hinky special like this deal since Covington. The Covington was the last guy to sort of blossom out of this contract.
Yeah, and he might be obviously he should get Sixth Man of the Year this year, and who knows what's going to happen next year as far as finding if they're going to.
Yeah,
there's obviously transactions to be done, but him playing as well as he has been, and this is his first game back after a week absence where presumably he was just sitting in a room kind of quarantined the whole time. He's demanding to be more of a focal point. He can, it's him and kind of the bench lineups, and he can then go be the guy, whatever. And maybe that's different with the starters in there, but he's demanding. His play is demanding more of a role. That's not just little spark plug. He should be finishing games. He is.
Yeah.
He's this good.
Well, you see when he's on the floor with Simmons, it's still Shake's game, it seems like. And when they were in the bubble last year and they started Shake, we got that first game where that was the case, and then it didn't stay that way. But when they're on the court together, it does seem like Shake Milton is comfortable being the guy when that happens. Actually, we'll come back to Maxey. If anything good has happened from this week in a basketball sense, it's getting Isaiah Joe on the court. Them being shorthanded and him showing that he can play in the NBA. He's obviously super thin and will have problems on defense, but is not shy and can shoot an NBA three, and if need be, he can get run in games. It's good to know they have another guy.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Isaiah Joe, I think everybody's saying that. It's obviously we don't want Seth Curry to get sick, and we wish that didn't happen, and all these everything. But the when young guys come in and are put in a box and having to be timid and stuff, it's hard for them to get comfortable. And so having you're playing 40 whatever minutes for a couple games, and now being a willing shooter. For years it seemed like the Sixers, since they had Covington, just didn't have enough willing shooters to just let it fly. And here's Isaiah Joe, who played 2 years at Arkansas and averaged 8 and then 10.6 threes per game. A lot of it off movement, a lot of it tough shots. He was just willing to get it up, and now you're seeing his blossoming confidence because he's getting that time. And so, Doc after the game talked about how he's basically, here's another rotation player here, and I agree. And it's nice that he's there. He shot 4 of 8 from 3 tonight. He's got a little bit of a dribble drive game. He's not a zero on defense. He's good instincts. And he's got decent length and timing. He's just small. He's just really, really tiny, width wise, but pretty long, and knows kind of what he's doing out there. Drew an offensive foul on Duncan Robinson and was fighting with him. It's just cool. It's cool to get him valuable time and to be able to be this guy that they inexplicably promised through multiple GM regimes. Turned out they got him in the 40s, and is looking like this is a player, and it's really, really, really nice.
Whoever promised him earlier when they were getting to the pick in the 40s is probably just sweating his ass off, just sort of begging, being well, Joe's still there. I'm not saying we have to. I'm not saying we have to take him.
No.
And I know you said the promise, it doesn't, they'll understand, but I'm just saying he's there.
And he's good. He's like he can play. Like he knows what he's doing out there. And they're in those like 8-player lineups, whatever. Like hit a couple big shots and just made some things happen. He's like an NBA athlete. I think it's really just having that willingness to shoot from deep, from wherever. They haven't really run too many plays for him like off of movement, and I think he has the skill set to do some of that JJ stuff, to run off movement, to pump fake, take one dribble in, like dribble drive, that kind of thing. But I think we'll see that over the years. But it's just this is how it works. Like these are how you get championship teams: is you draft well on the fringes, and you have guys like Shake and Tyrese and Isaiah Joe and maybe Matisse, who we can talk about, on like super cheap contracts that are like ready to contribute pretty immediately around your like high paying guys. And so it's nice to see like it seemed like there was like one guy for a couple years, like I hope that he's there. I hope that they kind of went away from it for a while. They decided like we're just we don't need any more young guys for a little bit, and now it's like, okay, it's very necessary that these young guys like play and be it, because we don't have enough money to be giving out like $10-15 million contracts in free agency. So this is good. I mean, you think about it, Shake, Isaiah, and we can talk about Maxey next, and maybe Matisse again. We can talk about him in a bit, but like they're starting to be like, hey, this is like the young kind of nucleus of benchish volume that has like not just like they have a varied skill set, and they can, the three of those guys at least, Tyrese, Shake, and a little bit of Isaiah, like can shoot volume and can get hot and carry the team for a couple games here and there, and it's really nice to see.
And Isaiah Joe's jersey just says Joe on the back, which is
Joe 7
is fucking awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah. I like he's my guy right now, kind of Isaiah Joe. I decided he's kind of my guy for a little while, so I'm gonna ride with Isaiah Joe for a little bit. That'll
and hey, a Dakota Mathias huge 3 to send the game into overtime.
How about
was
it?
Pumped about. That was awesome.
Yeah. And then Maxey, I don't know what else to say about him. Like he seems like, first of all, the guys that were off, Maxey, Shake, and Harris, all look like they had a little juice in their legs. And
Maxey wasn't
off. What's
Matisse
that?
Matisse was off. Maxey wasn't off.
Oh, right. That's what I'm saying. I'm sorry. Shake, Tobias, Matisse. I guess Matisse always looks like he has a little bit of juice in his legs. But it did, in a compressed schedule like this, I don't know, giving them a couple of games off, maybe it will prove to be a bonus, at least in some way. Maxey was great. I don't even know what to say. He does the same thing every game, and it's always good. He's very sure of himself. It's the wildest thing. Somehow he always looks like he winds up with 8 feet of space around him when he's taking a shot, and I think it's probably because he's so quick. And the thing that I've noticed about him, he's quick, and he is pretty like determine's the wrong word. It seems like he knows exactly where he wants to go. And because he's so fast and he knows where he wants to go, it seems like he finds spots on the floor where he can get a shot up. Not the floater necessarily, but the mid-range shots. And he has a really good sense of where he wants to go, and he's so fast that he gets there quickly. He's really good to watch. If that shot ever comes along, he will be an absolute problem to have to guard. And even without it now, he's great.
Yeah. He will. I mean, I think the shot is inconsistent right now, but I don't think it's a total zero. Like he can pull up. He looks confident in that like 18 to 20 feet range, and it's just at that stage of this is his first time on an NBA 3 line, and he hit a long one tonight. And I think just it's about getting those reps in and getting comfortable from the NBA line, because once he's the starting point guard, and I anticipate that at some point he will be on maybe next year. I don't know.
You think?
Yeah, I mean, he's really good. Like he's good and improving. Like he is. It's worth saying like how very lucky that they are that he dropped to 21, because he was a top 8 prospect coming in, and what happened to him at Kentucky happened to like multiple guys where they're like, oh, they kind of get put in this box and they don't get to do as much maybe. And so you're seeing him and you're like, okay, maybe he's not that great at everything. I think the long layoff from the end of the college basketball season to the draft made a difference in people being like, okay, we're really evaluating all these prospects. And I think it just kind of got overthought, but he's really good and he's still young and improving and just has it in him. I think like there's just a level of like basketball intelligence and be able to compete athletically. Like I think there's a couple times when he like drives at the rim and he gets kind of swallowed up because he's a little bit small and he's a little bit still finding where his angles are and like what worked at previous levels that doesn't work now. But yeah, I mean, I think Tyrese Maxey is absolutely a starting caliber player in the NBA for his career. I think he will.
His second year, though, you think?
Yeah, I mean, Tyler Hero is doing it right now.
Yeah.
I think he is. I think he's certainly. He projects to be a better defensive player than Hero. Different player, obviously, but yeah, I think whether it's here or someone else, if Tyrese is the guy, and we could talk about it in the Simmons conversation, but like. Tyrese is a capable, competent lead ball handler at this point that has a lot more to prove. But like projecting forward, yeah, absolutely. Like he's a guy, and I think teams are already very upset that they didn't draft him. So we're now like in a kind of embarrassment of riches phase to have this many guys at this age that are like capable of doing a lot of things with their ball in their hands after last year when they had nobody one that could do it. And it was like Howell Neto took the floor and it was like, oh my God, he's dribbling all the way to the basket. And now we're just there. It's really nice. And, we can talk, Embiid obviously played out of his mind. It's probably he didn't play much tonight, which is nice, though he didn't need to.
24 minutes, I think.
But he played out of his mind in that Heat game. Like he was pissed off. He was frustrated that he had to do it, but just like took over the game in the third quarter, hit everything. I think he was 8 for 8 in that quarter. Getting to his spots,
35 in the second half.
Yeah, spinning away from shit, like just demanding the ball. Like he seems locked in right now in a way that like it's like a frustrated lock in. It's not like a play to the crowd, do finger guns, hump the air when he's. Like after an N1 type of thing, locked in. But he feels like I'm angry. This is my year. Like I want to win a championship. I want to win MVP. I want you to know that I'm ready to do that. Maybe he's proving it. I think it's.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's putting pressure on management to like make it happen this year.
Yeah, and maybe not having the crowd is a good thing for him. I think maybe he relied on it maybe a little too much before. Like it for energy and for motivation and those sort of things. And I like, he's obviously locked in at a level he's never been in.
Yeah.
And maybe
they were just giving him the ball, playing point guard.
Yeah. He's more, he has a plan, I think, a lot more clearly when he has the ball in an offensive position, whether it's face up or post up or whatever it is. He looks like everything clicks a little bit faster. He's making decisions faster, and he's shooting the hell out of the ball. By the way, like shooting 40% from three, and I think long twos he's shooting like 60%. And to be honest with you, it doesn't even look like it's unsustainable the way he shoots. He's always had a really soft shot, always had a very nice free throw. Like the ball bounces very soft on the rim. So he's been incredible.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about Thibault, honestly. I mean, what did you had brought him up. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think Matisse is like Matisse and Ben are both interesting players, and I think now, just sort of anybody on Sixers Twitter can sort of see that they are very divisive players in that like offense is the easiest thing to look stupid at, right? To look like you are incapable of doing certain things. And Matisse especially is a guy when he shoots, when he dribbles off his foot, when he kind of just jumps without a plan, it looks really obviously stupid. but like his defense is like legitimately a weapon. And I think that there's times like he hit 2 threes tonight. I think that was nice. It was good to get some confidence in there. He had 4 steals and a block tonight, and I think that he had a couple other blocks that they called fouls on him for, and I think that they might not have been. Although his block at the rim was definitely a foul, so maybe that evens out. And yeah, I think he is a confounding player in that he is extremely limited at certain things, but I think, especially on a team without, like, you look at the bench and there's not many defensive positives on the bench. I think Shake is good on defense, but might get pushed around come playoff time. I think Matisse is a weapon on this team, and I would be really hesitant to write him off. If I was a coach on the Sixers coaching staff, and I saw the things he could do defensively and the instincts he had and the length that he had and the ability to switch like 1 through 4, and just have to be accounted for on the defensive end, I would be losing sleep over how much I needed to make him a competent offensive player. I would the necessity of making Matisse a passable, able to hang in the playoffs, even if he's just standing in the corner and like cutting when it's open and making the right pass and shooting like 35% from 3. That would keep me up at night because of how much of a weapon his defense is. And yeah, he's like scattered sometimes, and yeah, he's like gets a little bit rattled and maybe sometimes tries to do too much and whatever. But like, there aren't many players in the league like him. And when we were talking about possibly trading Matisse in the Harden conversations, I'm just having images of him doing so much on another team when he puts it together a little bit more competently. And I would, even though he played 4 years at Washington, even though this is his second year and he's like, his offense like has a ways to go, absolutely. But like, I would really, really make sure before I move on from Matisse at a value that is lower than it could be, I would make sure that he's never going to get there. Because if he does get there as like he has kind of Danny Green's offense with the bounce and open, transition and just creating plays, being a ball hawk type of guy on defense, like that's a really, really good player and really, really helpful to a team. I don't think he's ever going to need to start on this team. He's not going to be Kawhi Leonard, like absolutely not. But like as a bench player on a rookie contract, like his helpfulness quotient could be very, very high, and I wouldn't just get rid of him for nothing. Which I think it's understandable. Sixers Twitter is frustrated with him a lot of the time. Totally get it, but I'm not writing him off yet. Not at all.
Well, Mike, the win tonight was good news, but I do have bad news for you that I'd like to share. That I once again lost my Ben Simmons 3-pointer prop bet.
Took one.
He did, and he was wide open. And he's made how many in regular games? I think 3. And the prop has either not been there, or the one time when he hit the one against the Knicks, I think the first one, I was on my way home from the radio station. I couldn't bet it. So with all the bets I've made on that prop, I've never won one. And it was.
How much are you down, give or take?
Probably $400.
$400 on Ben Simmons threes?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I don't ever bet less than $10, and tonight I bet 15, so I'm probably down 400. Yeah, I would say so.
That's alarming.
Yeah,
that's too much.
He was plus 800 tonight, and I swear I saw him wide open in the corner. I'm like, there it is, and there was another shot at it, but he and Danny Green looked like they got their wires crossed as a turnover. It was so close, so close. Holiday season's over. Sports calendar in full swing this week. College, pro sports, no better place to bet on it and lose $500 on a guy not making a 3 than Draftkings Sportsbook. Draftkings Sportsbook. To celebrate this year's football playoffs, Draftkings is giving all new players the chance to bet any one of this weekend's professional football games. You get 100-1 odds. Any of the games. That's right. You bet $1 on any of the football games this weekend. Your team wins. You get $100. Do you have a favorite still playing? I'm cheering for Buffalo in the NFL.
I like a Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind an Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. I like cheering. I like Andy Reid, obviously.
A back-to-back Andy Reid Super Bowl would just be
pretty crazy.
Yeah. For Philly, so yeah,
Cleveland would be, I guess, fun. I guess Cleveland or Buffalo is probably the fun call.
Yeah, but I like watching Buffalo. That's like the one NFL team this year that I've enjoyed watching at all. We're excited for football, obviously, but basketball going as well. Daily odds boosts for DraftKings. We're actually working on one of them for one of our guys. A good odds boost that we'll hopefully be able to tell you about soon. Safe, secure, reliable. You put money in, it goes right in. You take money out, comes right out. All at your convenience. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code RTRS when you sign up to get 100-to-1 odds on any football game this weekend. I'm laughing because I thought about your reaction to the $400. That does suck. It really does. That's
too much.
Yeah, that's code RTRS for new players to get a shot at $100 on any football action this weekend for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Pennsylvania only. Restrictions apply in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Well, I'm not writing him off. You say his defense is a weapon. I think he makes excellent defensive plays a lot of the time, but I don't watch him when they're playing defense and think to myself, man, that guy's locking that guy up. Or he likes going for steals. He has good instincts for steals. He has good instincts for blocks. But the thing that I'm worried, and I don't think that they're like going to get rid of him for nothing. If they get rid of him, my guess is that he's just in a package with something, and he ends up having. We never know what his value is, right? Like we never know in that package. If he had been in the Harden package, we would have had no idea how much Houston valued him, right? At least at this point. But the thing that worries me about him is that he played 4 years and he's so raw. He's just so raw. And I agree with you that I would be on him every day. I guess my concern is that, a year like this probably doesn't leave a ton of, they have like 17 fucking assistants, so maybe they could sick someone on him. Probably doesn't leave a ton of time to be on him every day. But in that case, I would take one of Doc Rivers' 17 assistants and assign him to 2 hours a day with Matisse Thybulle, making him just fucking watch tape, honestly, of where he should be and where he should go and what he's done wrong. And he seems like a good guy, right? I mean, he seems like an affable guy, and it seems like people like being around him. I don't have any idea what his work ethic is like. I don't have any idea. There was a press conference thing.
Gets those blogs up pretty regularly.
He does. There was a moment in a presser where somebody asked him what he worked on over the summer, and he just sort of giggled. And I was like, what the fuck? What did you work on, man? So I don't know. I agree with you that you can watch him at times and you think to yourself, that guy's got something. Oh my God, look at how good his hands are. And when the shot goes in, when the 3-pointer goes in, it looks like he shoots it pretty, effortlessly when he does. But he misses pretty badly. He makes pretty bad offensive plays, and he makes a lot of mistakes on defense too. And all that stuff worries me that he's this far along in his career, and those things are problems, I think.
Yeah.
So that I'm a little more
I don't think it's
mixed
not, but it's still like, he was not a highly sought after prospect. So sometimes some guys just, I'm saying like as a college player.
Right.
I'm saying like early in, like as a freshman coming into college. I think that there is a sense of assuming like, okay, you're a finished product, but some guys growth curve just like takes longer. And I like if Matisse all of a sudden went to Toronto or to San Antonio or to the Lakers, like you'd probably feel a pit in your stomach being like they're gonna turn this guy into a player. They're gonna turn this guy into like a very, very useful player. Like we can look around the league right now and see many guys who did not like fully succeed here, or at least had some pros and cons or some like whatever and didn't quite get there, that have blossomed into like straight up either like NBA starters or at least NBA rotation players that you can look around and see. Like a lot of those guys, like a dozen. There's like a dozen of those guys. And I'm not going to rule out like friggin' Jonah Bolden doing it like in a couple years and being like, oh, great. Awesome.
Well, you'll take a victory lap on that if it happens.
I don't know. I think I was very pro and then very anti. So I think I think a victory lap no matter what. Yeah. So it's tough. I would say that like a good organization needs to be able to make a player out of Matisse Thybulle. There's too much talent there. There's too much unique length and instincts there that to be like, nah, we just never got him there, I think would be a tremendous failure of the coaching staff. And it's a new coaching staff, and it's a weird year, obviously, and you don't have him in your room that you can just unlimited time, whatever it is. But somebody's gonna make Matisse Thybulle into like a really, really useful player, and he's like occasionally scratches the surface of that, and then he goes away from it, and then he fucks up, whatever it is. But I would like it to be here, and I would, at the very least, if we're going to trade him, I would like to trade him at the height of some value, not when it's like he's kind of clueless and kind of looking around and just sort of putting his hands in his pockets talking to the ref.
All right. I think we got to move on to the big topic. Are we all right? Okay. So before we do, I'd like to thank Stateside Urban Craft Vodka for sponsoring the Corner 3 newsletter. It's a great Corner 3 this morning. Of course, with Zoe. Zoe is a big Harden guy, was wanted him badly. I was eager to, I look at it at the newsletter at 6 a.m. just to make sure everything's all good before we send it out. So I was eager to read it this morning. Brought to you by Stateside Vodka. Distilled 7 times, gluten-free, kosher, carb-free, and made here in Philly, and you can get it in 44 states now. Finally, get it delivered in 44 states. Go to statesidevodka.com, or if you're in this area, you can go to PA Wine and Spirit Store. Must be 21 to enjoy. Please drink responsibly. So it ends up being the Harden thing. It was reported on in a very strange way. I don't know if you thought this, and maybe it's because the reporters aren't able to be in person with a lot of the general managers and agents and stuff like that. But it felt like there was a vacuum of what felt like reliable information until the final day. When it started heating up, when Harden the night before said that he didn't want to be there anymore, Mark Stein, Woj, Shams all seemed to be, really had a lot of information. But until that point, it felt like a lot of guessing. So it ends up being the two teams that everyone thinks it's going to be from the beginning. It ends up being, the Sixers and the Nets. I always had the feeling like he was going to go to the Nets because he wanted to go to the Nets. I don't know why he ended up going to the Nets. I know there's a lot of stories out there. I guess I have a bunch of questions I want to get to here. What was your gut reaction when the trade didn't happen?
I mean, mixed feelings for sure.
Yeah.
I think that one of my first things I thought was like, man, Tillman Fertitta must really hate Daryl Morey, and I guess I don't blame him for taking a gap year, and then the gap year became like a gap half of a week before he left Houston and signed with Philly, and maybe he just didn't want to deal with him. Maybe he wanted to dick him around. I don't know. I wouldn't put pettiness past him. There's also a lot to trade for him. Like I think on Brooklyn's end,
it's as much as you can trade as far as draft picks.
Yeah, I mean, like, what really is the difference between we traded six years of picks and swaps versus 8 years of picks and swaps?
Mm-hmm.
If the difference is we're either getting James Harden, who's a generational player, in his prime, probably like the last year, 2 or 3 years of his prime, maybe.
Seems like he'll age well, given his game, I would imagine.
Maybe. He's obviously not known for taking pristine care of himself, but he does always show up to games and plays his ass off and stuff. But it's a lot. I mean, I get why. I think it's a big package. 8 years of we own your first round pick basically. For 8 years is a long time, and I get why if you're Rockets ownership, you just want to be like, okay, now we have like a ton of assets. We got this guy out of here. We're not depending on one guy in Simmons to be the best player in a championship team. It's sort of like taking door number 3 a little bit. Like this box could be anything. Like we have 8 boxes and like look what could be inside. Anything at all.
I like dogs. As Mike, I like dogs. I like talking about dogs. I decided, this is going to be a weird one. Yeah, you kind of like don't mind the scent of your own like fart, kind of. Would you agree to that?
Sure.
My dog, he stinks. He hasn't had a bath in weeks. I don't mind. Like I kind of like the way he smells when he smells bad.
That's weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Love dogs. Big Barker is the only dog bed you're allowed to get. Join one of the hundreds of Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners that went to bigbarker.com/Ricky. Bigbarker.com/Ricky. We're on our way to 600 dog beds with the processed pup patch on it. You go to bigbarker.com/Ricky. You get the Big Barker dog bed with the processed pup patch. You send us a picture. They go in the gallery like Charlie, who is 10 years old, just had his torn ACL repaired in July, loves his Big Barker. The reason Charlie loves it, the reason Rebel loves it, is because it is comfortable. It's really supportive. It's not comfortable like the ones you see at the pet store that are kind of fluffy, but they lay on it and they just fall right to the ground like it's a pillow. It's a real bed, real memory foam, designed by experts, proven by UPenn, that to support their joints and give them more mobility. Certainly as they age, their joints get creakier, and this bed is important. So why, even if your dog is young, if your dog is big, if your dog is old, if your dog is small, you want your dog to be healthy, and sleeping on a Big Barker dog bed will do that. Go to bigbarker.com/Ricky. Get that processed pup patch. Get the Big Barker dog bed. There's a 10-year warranty. The foam doesn't flatten, or they replace it for free. A 1-year at-home trial. If for any reason you don't like it, you send it back. They'll even pay for the shipping. Made right here in the U.S. of A. Big Barker dog beds. I think it's undoubtable that the Nets package, the real question is what the Sixers package ended up being. We know Simmons was in it, but like those picks are better than Simmons. I mean,
I don't necessarily agree that it's. I think it's hard to say better, right? Like I think if the Rockets were like, it's
worth more.
We need to win over the course of like we have a 3-year plan in that we have Christian Wood, who we think is really good, and we have John Wall, who we think is working himself back to being somewhat the player he was. Like maybe we can win a couple rounds and see whatever if we get more shooting and put him, like if you want to do that. Like the choice to make Ben Simmons like basically your number one guy and build around him in that way, that's a choice. You might say like, yeah, I think Ben Simmons is better than probably 3 picks in the 20s, probably maybe that fourth pick is...
we don't know. We have no idea what there's.
No, of course we have no idea, but I think on the safe side, if you're Houston, on the safe side, you're getting one good pick out of that. On the very safe side, maybe they're not all in the 20s. Maybe the swaps end up being in the teens or whatever it is. I think Brooklyn is basically establishing itself as a destination in that the Knicks aren't. So I don't think that they're going to ever be as bad as they have been in years past. I don't think they're going to be like a bottom 5 lottery team in a couple years, just because of I think they're saying they're saying, hey, we're the Knicks, but we're New York's team, but we're not the Knicks.
But for what it's worth, that is the exact thing that people thought when the Garnett and Pierce trade happened.
For sure. I mean, it's different because those guys are younger. These guys are younger now and better and still in their primes and stuff. And I think that this front office is smarter than that front office. But I think absolutely the idea of like, hey, one of these picks could become really, really good and we're getting them unprotected. That's what you do it for. And you're not doing it.
And it's value, by the way.
It's value to be able to trade, exactly.
Yeah.
But if you like, the median for me is we get 1 to 2 top 10 picks out of it, whether a
Okay.
swap or a pick itself. 1 to 2 top 10 picks if it works out that if the median. I think the worst case scenario is you get like a bunch of picks in the late teens or 20s, and the best case is it all falls apart and you get a bunch. But I think that's probably unlikely. So let's say like 1 or 2 like pretty good picks out of it. I think Simmons is better than 1 to 2 picks in the top 10 in 2025, 2026. I think that's pretty clear. But
he's not
But it's
worth
a matter
more.
of like what your plan for the organization is. And I definitely don't think Houston is dumb for taking this path if that's what they want.
Yeah, I don't think Simmons is worth more. I think there's a lot of questions about it, and by the way, it does hurt more that it goes to a team in the Eastern Conference. By the way, in your division for whatever that means in the NBA, and creates a team that will, I would be hard to beat in a playoff series with Kevin Durant and James Harden. Would be difficult.
They have one good defender, and that's Kevin Durant. That is.
Well, Joe Harris is a solid defender. James
Fine.
Harden, when he defends, is a solid defender.
He's a solid on-ball defender, but certainly
yeah.
not off-ball.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that the LeBron Cavs sort of proved that if you have one of the best couple of offenses in the league, if you can become a passable defense in the playoffs, you can get through. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
It'll be a hard team to guard if all three guys are
For
playing.
sure. I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm down on Brooklyn. I'm also not ready to say
Yeah.
like they're hands down, like it's over type of thing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think they could lose to any of the top
Yeah,
three
especially
or four
if Kyrie
teams
is just
in-
not there, which we have no idea kind of what's going on there.
What do you? So the things I took from it were that we can all be sure that Morey is willing to trade Simmons. Like he is. He said he wasn't. He obviously is.
I think you'd be sort of willfully ignorant if you thought
didn't think that.
Morey wasn't willing to trade Ben for Harden. Yeah,
I think. I think one thing it says. I think it also says that Morey is probably pretty sure that they are a major piece away. That it's not a tinkerable team. You could say, well, they just took a shot because Harden was there, but my guess is that if he thought he could tinker and win the championship, he would probably tinker for a year and win the championship and not do this the first year. I think the interesting question that is raised is what people used to tell me a lot when I would say that I thought Brooklyn was going to get them is if the Sixers want him, they'll get him because they have Simmons, and Simmons is a better trade piece than anything that the Nets have. And I think the thing that becomes difficult moving forward, if they decide to trade for somebody, a great guard somewhere, is that Simmons' value, I think, is probably high to some teams.
Yeah.
But maybe not high to a lot of teams.
for sure.
Because he's such a weird fit.
I think. By
And
the
I
way,
think
like,
that's
there's a lot of guys like that. I think Harden was kind of like that. In that, yeah, we know he's James Harden, but like, what does it do to our, the rest of our team?
Yeah, I think he's obviously much, much better. I
course.
think is the different story. And I do think that's different than it maybe was a year ago. I think that Ben's specificity is a little more clear than it was a year ago. The problem is then that if
You
people
mean just
keep
because he
talking
hasn't
about-
gotten like significantly better at any specific thing?
Yeah, I think people are a little more sure of what he is at this point. You would have to. You talk about being willfully ignorant. I think at this point, if you're going into the Ben Simmons experience expecting a significantly different offensive game in the next 2 or 3 years, you'd be making like not a great bet. You'd be making probably a low percentage bet. So the thing that makes it particularly interesting to me is that let's say Bradley Beal becomes available. Is offering Ben Simmons to Washington really offsetting any of the picks that you need to give up, considering that Washington is probably locked into Russell Westbrook, that Ben Simmons makes just about the same amount of money as Bradley Beal, and is only a couple of years younger? I wonder. I guess I just wonder. I was a little more sure before this than I am now, and maybe it's just because this happened. I was a little more sure that the Sixers could put themselves really right in the thick of any of these trade conversations just by the fact that they had Simmons to offer, and I'm not so sure anymore.
Well, I think it really just depends on what kind of package a team wants. Like, if you want the Drew Holiday, James Harden, Anthony Davis kind of got everything.
Drew Holiday even was 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, if you want the here's all of the picks for the next many years, which is pretty. I mean, I guess not new, but it's starting to become the norm. Like when you trade a generational type player, you're basically kind of admitting, all right, we're rebuilding, and it's
not
weird
even
for the
generational. Paul George,
a top
Russell Westbrook.
a top 15 player in the league.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
And so how many in a pandemic year when there aren't fans, and you don't need to or there aren't fans in most arenas, and you don't need to convince people to please show up, please pay attention to me. How much is hey, we will trade your, kind of guaranteed focal point of an offense, maybe a little bit later in his career, for who wants out, for our younger Swiss Army knife, all defense, made an All NBA team, only 24 years old, but already signed to that next contract, but is certainly not a seamless fit into just any place, and how willing are you to be to put him next to? I don't think ever Ben Simmons is going to be the best player on the championship team. I think that's pretty clear. But I think if you put him with if you put Ben Simmons with Trae Young in that kind of thing and said okay, so here's a very dominant offensive player, and then Ben can just kind of do a bunch of other things. I think that's possible. I don't know who's better, who's more valuable, whatever. But as far as the number one option on an offense, I don't think he's ever going to be capable of that on the championship team.
And I think it's less about, people say build around him. I don't think that's the right way to say it, because to have a successful team with him, you still need a dominant guard creator type player. So you don't say.
But I think that's everywhere. I think everywhere you need more than one person that can handle the ball and make things happen and run pick and roll and all that stuff. I think that maybe it didn't used to be that way, but now that I think that in the current NBA, it's you really need multiple guys that can run offense, attack a closeout, exploit defenses in different ways, because defenses are smarter than they used to be.
Yeah, but I think at one point the belief with him was that he was not that he's the same type of player, but he was the Trae Young, that he's the engine. I think that player is too hard to get. I think what it is you have to find the right situation for him, and less that you build a situation around him.
Sure.
Because I think if you're building the situation around him, it's in a lot of ways, it's sort of not in a ways it's like Embiid, right? Because you can build around Embiid, but you still need that player, right? I just think he has to go to the right sort of team.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think Kevin Durant, Brad Beal, Kawhi Leonard, there's plenty of guys that are I think more wing initiators that also can defend, are the most seamless fit in the NBA. Jason Tatum, begrudgingly, those kinds of players. Embiid is not like that. Simmons is not like that, and so it's just a different style. In my mind, obviously your feelings on Simmons are known. I feel like I'm the only person in the middle on Ben Simmons. I feel like I'm the only person on the internet alive that's in the middle on Simmons. I think he's very good at a bunch of things, and the things that he's not good at are so surprising still that it just fucks people up. When I talk to people that are not Sixers fans about Simmons, they love him. They're my Celtics fans, who I'm friends with, are like, please get him out of the division. I don't want him defending our best player for the
Celtics
next 5
fans.
years. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just telling you. I'm surprised
Yeah.
because most people I talk to are Sixers fans and are like just like frustrated with the things that Ben Simmons can't do. But I think if you're not a Sixers fan, as we've talked about, you watch guys differently when they're not on your team.
You watch them less.
You watch them less, and their weaknesses don't seem as frustrating. They just seem like, oh, he's not doing this certain thing. I think Ben is he's just limited in a bunch of ways, in a way that most max salary guys are not. You know, like Simmons against a coach that's very smart with really disciplined players like an Eric Spoelstra. He's almost a non-factor because he's really, obviously Spoelstra didn't have his whole stable of players tonight, but like Spoelstra can shut down Simmons because he's smart enough to take away the things that he's best at and make him sort of a non-factor. And he shot 2 field goals last game, which is inexplicable.
Well, he'll do stuff like putting Kelly Olynyk on him. Like it's just sort of smart and saying, well, he can't really guard him, but there's not a lot that Ben can do.
Exactly.
Based on how he's going to guard him.
Yeah, and I think Ben at this point offensively, and we've talked about, like, you know, they put him at the elbow sometimes, they put him in the post sometimes, they put him in the dunker spot, but really what he is offensively is a drive and kick player. Like, he's not great at finishing in that middle distance. Obviously, he's a lot of times unwilling to shoot outside of, like, right at the rim. He doesn't have a bevy of moves in the half court that like get him where he wants to go. It's just really like speed and power. And I think he's made a point to go at the rim a lot more this season, but is still not as good at it as I want him to be. But he's also a guy that just like shuts down a lot of times, not all the time, TJ Warren, but like a lot of times is capable of shutting down. I think Ben Simmons is in the conversation with like Marcus Smart, Kawhi Leonard, those kinds of defenders that can like on any given night kind of just shut down a really good player or make them have a really inefficient night. And Tyler Hero tonight like looked pretty bad when Simmons was on him and looked pretty gassed. And so it's interesting. Like in the same way with Thibault, like I'm not expecting Simmons to suddenly become Giannis. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't think he's that kind of player. I don't think he has that mindset. I don't think he has the like physicality and touch that Giannis does. But I also don't think he sucks. And does it frustrate me that like when he like catches the ball at the nail and kind of just stands and looks around and like can't do anything, and it's like you're really good, and if you decided to be this kind of player, you could be a guy that makes defenses pay for leaving you wide open and playing 5 feet off you from 12 feet away from the basket. Like, that's frustrating, absolutely. But, like, I think the things that he's weak at, it's just so clearly that he's weak at them that it fucks people up. And I'm just kind of more in the middle about it. Like, and basically coming into the season, like, I didn't want them to trade Simmons before the season because I was like, I want to see what it looks like under a different coach with shooting around Simmons and Embiid. And it looks good. Does it look like excellent? Does it look like championship? I would say no at this point until more moves are made. But like when Embiid and Simmons share the court, and this is per Cleaning the Glass, they're outscoring opponents by an average of 12.7 points per 100 possessions. And that's really good. Like that's really very it's really very good. But
but per Cleaning the Glass, they're outscoring teams by more when Simmons is off the court. When Embiid is on and Simmons is off, that differential is larger. And I think one of the things that people mistake this is about Embiid and not about Simmons. Mm-hmm. The mistake that people make in the game they play is like, look at this group of 3 players, so and so, and Embiid. They're plus 18. Mm-hmm. In the fucking 4 years that he's been here, every lineup with Embiid is like plus 15. It's every lineup, and I think at this is the point where you just have to kind of watch sometimes. And I'm actually disappointed that I've ended up where I am on Simmons, and I think, you know, he's to your point, he's a weird player, and I think those things that are weird about him have sort of forced people to want everyone to see what the things that they see, and I think that people that are very pro Simmons want, like, assume that I don't think that that people that point out the things that he's bad at are not noticing the defense. I notice the defense. It's just at this point, his contract is funny because on the right team, his contract is totally worth it. On the wrong team, I think it's not a great contract. Like, I don't think $35 million for a guy that's a great wing defender that, like, really can't even get a bucket for himself is a great contract.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I think it's difficult. I think he's just a really unique player, and I think it fucks people up. Like, I don't think you tell me if you disagree, but Iverson very rarely, if ever, got a tremendous amount of shit for his defense because he got steals, he made some plays happen.
Yeah.
But
right,
like,
you're right.
He was a guy who got picked on defensively, and if he was around today, would get picked on even more defensively.
Constantly, yeah.
And no one is even like, you know, James Harden has had a bunch of very bad defensive plays over the years, like not giving a fuck defensive plays, standing around watching his guy go back door, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if you even like have the guise of kind of trying, Zach LaVine. You know, people talk about Zach LaVine not being a good defender, but he's not like I don't think, I would assume, and this is, I guess, just me commenting on the discourse. Maybe that's not helpful, but like, I think weird to limited offense is significantly more draws a lot more ire from fans than limited to bad defense. And I think on a, as far as your best player goes, offense is more important generally, unless you're a center. And so I get why, but I think the balance is not even, and it's not as right as it should be. And so guys like Ben, guys like Matisse, who are limited offensively, it seems like, well, how are you not good at that? And I get it. Like, I feel it sometimes. I'm watching them and I'm like, I wish that they were better. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, as far as
some of it has to do with the game now too, though. I mean, you know, like I you know, the importance of being able to create and score is more than ever, I would say. You know, so there are far fewer wing defensive specialists than there were. You know, it was just 10 years ago where everybody fucking loved Tony Allen. Yeah, they loved him. You know, and he couldn't do anything on offense, and they loved him. I don't think that it's valued quite the same way. And really, defensive wing players, like from Kawhi to even back when Kobe was a good defender, or Jordan, you get a lot more respect if you're also a good offensive player. Of course, like a lot more, even back to Gary Payton and stuff like that.
But even if Ben did, he finished at the rim more, he got to the line more than he does, and he still didn't shoot, I still think people would be like kind of fucked up by him. I just think it's weird. It's just not a thing you're used to. Anyway, I you know, as far as the trade not being made, I trust Daryl, which is interesting to say because years of us not trusting the Sixers front office.
I totally agree there.
I have no idea how much of a factor, like, obviously the Houston grudge against Daryl was not wanting to trade Harden to him. I do think it was a factor. I think if the trade was like 60-40, the Sixers were offering a better trade, I still think Houston probably is like, let's go with the fucking 40, fuck those guys.
Yeah, I do not agree, though, that there was a report that Fertitta wasn't going to trade him here. I don't believe that.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been. I'm totally
fucking
me over
idiot.
to fuck you. I just think, like, if it gets close, even if it's still not that close,
yeah,
I think he would go against Daryl. But yeah, I mean, I think there's, you know, Sixers Adam had an article on the website today about a couple guys that are available, and there's just not many. Like, there's just not. It's Brad Beal. It's a very flawed Zach LaVine. I don't think Lou Williams is a real upgrade at this point. I think
not in the playoffs. He doesn't.
Not in the playoffs.
Nice,
and I think the way that Maxey is stepping up, the way that Shake is as good as he is and able to hang defensively, I don't think that. Not that I say I wouldn't take Lou Williams, but I don't think he's any. I wouldn't trade anything of value for him really. Zach LaVine, I would, even though I do think that he's a bad decision maker and kind of a big stats on a bad team guy. Until he proves me wrong. But there's not that many options, you know.
The problem with Beal and LaVine, not that they're on the same level. They're not on the same level. Beal is much better. I like LaVine better than you do. But the difference with Harden is that Harden creates for other players in a way that those two players don't. You know, Beal's okay at it, but Harden is we say basketball genius. Harden sees the court in an exceptional way, is sort of an all-time passer, and can run point for you. Brad Beal isn't doing that, and Zach LaVine
I disagree with Beal, actually. I think he does do that. I think especially once in the years that Wall was out, I think he was, not effectively because those teams were bad, but his passing improved, his vision improved, he was creating for other people. I think the best version of him is not doing that all the time. And so it's nice to have him running around screens and stuff.
I would love to have him.
Would love to have him. But it's just I think the package for Brad Beal is going to be every bit as much as James Harden is, and I think a lot more teams are going to be in on that because of how well liked Brad Beal is.
Totally, and that's when a team like New Orleans might get involved, and then they have so many. That's what it would be nice to have a couple extra picks laying around. You know,
for sure.
I don't know.
It's interesting. I mean, right now we're at the place where I think the Sixers are good. I think there's a non-zero chance that they finish a top 3 seed in the East if health permitting and stuff. Embiid is playing out of his mind. Tobias looks very, very steady. And now the Sixers, because of this, are looking like potentially a relatively deep team with guys that can hit shots, guys that can come in and defend. When Embiid's out, they're still. It's unquantifiable how good Embiid is. It's just you take him out and they don't have a shot. But they can hold up long enough, I think, for those minutes where we won't be dealing with Greg Monroe playoff minutes. Mm-hmm. But it'll be interesting to see what the rest of the season look like. How if there's other deals that are rumored and stuff. Doc was reportedly happy that Ben wasn't traded. Ben is reportedly happy that Ben wasn't traded.
Can I tell you? I don't think Ben was thrilled that he wasn't traded. Is what I'll say and this isn't. I know everybody that fucking thinks I hate Ben. I get the sense that he was looking forward to that trade. I think he'll be a good soldier here.
Wait, is this a you get the sense, or is this you talking to people get the sense?
I'm not it's not just from my gut. It's not a tea leaves thing. I would say. I would guess, and look, I don't think it means he will demand out. I don't think he's demanding a trade. I don't think it means that he's not happy playing here or any of those things. I do think it means that the reports that he was just fucking elated that the trade didn't happen, I think that's horseshit. My guess would be, I don't think that there's any way he's on the Sixers next year. That's what I think. I think there's definitely a chance that this is mostly the team and they tinker through this year. I would be surprised if he's on the team next year.
I think there's a good chance that he's on the team next year. I don't know if I would say it's definitely going to happen, but I would also not say not a chance in hell he's gone. I think that it's hard to find the right place to move him, and I don't think it's necessary for them to move him. It's just a matter of finding the right cocktail of team that wants to win but wants to build, and it's a good fit, and they have pieces that we want. It's just
could end up.
It's an odd fit.
They could end up in a position where they might it might be better off for them to move him too.
Maybe
I don't
before
know.
if it has the threat of getting bad. I don't know. I'm glad that if the Harden trade was Harden for Simmons and Maxey and Thibault, maybe and Shake. I don't know. That it seemed like Shake was off the table, but I wouldn't. If Houston didn't ask for him, then I think they would be stupid. So let's assume that it was everything because Brooklyn kind of threw in everything. Brooklyn kind of gave them everything that they possibly could give them, in a non like Kyrie trade, and then they flipped. Obviously, flipping Levert for Oladipo is interesting and stuff, but basically they downgraded from Harden to Oladipo, kind of similar players, obviously not on the same tier remotely, and added 8 years of picks. So in that world, flipping Harden for Simmons and all those guys, Maxey, Matisse, Shake, and like 2 picks, like I'm glad that didn't happen. I think that's probably what they were asking for. And I'm glad they didn't do it. I'm glad. I don't think it was a Harden or bust. Get Harden at all costs. Trade everything you have to trade for him.
Or they would have.
What did you say?
Or they would have.
Well, would you have done that? Are you glad that didn't happen?
No, I actually I have a lot less of an interesting take on the trade. Like there were people who reached out to me and were angry that it didn't happen, and I'm more in a Zen sort of place where I trust Morey to know Harden, to know the team, and to know the market.
Yeah.
And that the only thing he can't know is that when Houston comes to him and says, "Look, the Nets are offering 4 firsts and 4 swaps, like we need you to do it too." At some point, Morey's got to go. I don't believe that's true.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna call your bluff. Or B, that's too much, and I got to wait for the next guy. And for as good as Harden is. And I mentioned this in a thing that I wrote today. And this doesn't make it like that any of these players are easy. But in the last 5 years, Kevin Durant switched teams twice. Chris Paul's been traded 3 times. Jimmy Butler's been traded 3 times. Kawhi Leonard has been traded once and switched teams another time. Paul George has been traded twice.
It happens.
Players become available. Anthony Davis, players become available. So I think... I trust him. I just trust Morey in this. So I don't know if I would have done that, but I feel like I don't have enough information to know if I would have done that.
Yeah. I mean, as I've said, like I'm like ultimately like a scared money little boy. And so the idea of like keeping on our precious little guys that I think are good and young and cost controlled like made me happy. I would have felt, the joy and excitement I would have felt at pairing Harden and Embiid together would have been like very palpable. It would have been like, we're riding for a championship, let's go. I would have been very happy in that regard. But I also feel after it not happening, I feel pretty, light and buoyant that we don't have to worry about him like being at a club and flouting the COVID rules and, John Wall and Boogie Cousins like fucking hate him, like alienating Embiid, making Embiid want to demand a trade, like the potential future ramifications of James Harden coming in here and alienating his teammates and his coaches and everything and being in that sort of circus. I am at least partially glad that is not our future.
Yeah, I'm convinced that Harden would have scored 48 in his first game here.
100%.
I don't know how. Yeah, what's that?
100%.
Yeah, I don't know how it would have gone, long term, but I know in the first game he the city would have been just out of their minds after seeing him the first game.
And a universally, I don't know universally, but like a very disliked player in Harden, at least by the mainstream, of like the kind of style he plays and the kind of like he's not a good teammate and like now he's got this reputation, like that guy being in Philly with Joel Embiid, we would have been the least liked team of all time by other teams, which is obviously very, very nice for us. Although I do think that is balanced out by how likable B-Ball Paul is.
Yes, I love B-Ball
with a nice first touch skyhook tonight that went in. That was beautiful. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's we're at a place where the Sixers are 9-4, they're first in the East. I would say all 4 of their losses don't count. I think that's important to know. And there's a lot of season left, and there's more maneuvering to do. And Embiid is playing the best basketball he's ever played, and the young guys seem more ready than we expected. And especially guys that can get off volume threes and handle the ball and do some creation. And that's, I think if you would have told us that back in, when did the season start? December?
I don't know, December 22nd.
Then I think I would have felt, hearing that, I would have felt very good if that was the case. And so we're getting back to full strength. Seth Curry, will be back in a week or so. Hopefully he is the same player he was before he got COVID. It's, I like the way the team looks. I like the way, especially the other thing, Daryl, like, he just traded a fuckload of picks to get Russell Westbrook in Houston. And maybe he was just like, I don't want to go all in. I've been here for 2 months. I don't want to go all in yet,
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, but I would love to know the truth about
for sure.
that
trade.
But
I think generally, obviously the vibes are good, and we can't forget about the vibes. Although Embiid playing angry, maybe adjust them and sitting, 40 feet away from anybody else to not be able to wear a mask due to new COVID rules. Fine. I don't know how. I like him in the huddle. I like him high-fiving people. But generally feeling good and trusting the front office, and I feel, and being in first place, like all of those things, like coalescing, even amid the very odd start to the season, like positivity. I would say I feel general positivity towards the Sixers, which is rare.
I would say so too. It was a weird game to watch tonight. I was actually glad that it was a young guys game. I felt like I needed the flush of everybody else and just watch those guys tonight. I was glad I got to see some Isaiah Joe.
Mm-hmm.
The only other thing from the trade that I wanted to say, not Sixers and not Nets related, is that I know I'm a big Karis LeVert guy, but the Pacers are going to be a fucking problem. I don't think they can win the championship, obviously, but I don't want to play 7 games against that Pacers team.
Yeah.
Dude, they got some tough fucking players on that team,
Well, TJ Warren's out for the year, so that's a little.
Oh, is it officially difficult for the year?
I think so.
Okay. I didn't.
Sabonis is excellent. Miles Turner looks better than he has in years past. Brogdon's very solid. They have guys that just hustle, work hard. They're
the Holidays,
well coached. The Holidays.
LeVert now.
Jared
Allen
good.
now.
Interesting. Him and Oladipo are similar players. Like, not natural catch and shoot guys.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of both need the ball in their hands to do things. I think LeVert gets a little bit more tunnel vision than Oladipo, but I don't know. It's an interesting team. Maybe they think that they can play a little smaller. Maybe they think they can play LeVert at the 4 a little bit without Jared Allen. I don't know. They're a good team. Like I definitely wouldn't. They could absolutely win a round. I don't know how much after that, but. And I think Houston, they could be like, hey, we want to get a look at Oladipo and think that he could get back to the guy that he was then.
Or they can flip him.
Maybe to the Sixers for,
maybe
Danny Green and a pick or something. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, man, we'll talk to you Sunday night. We got 2 games this weekend. I don't even know who we're playing. Who are we playing this weekend?
Memphis on Saturday.
Uh-huh.
And Ja Morant looks like he might be back. From a sprained ankle for a while, and then the Mike Muscala Oklahoma City Thunder featuring Al Horford on Sunday.
And so we got a bunch of Harden trade questions. The ones that are still valid, we'll do on Sunday. And I forgot to ask Zoe. We'll ask Zoe to come on, see if Zoe can. He's got a family and all, but it's the pod, so get some Zoe feedback. He seemed particularly crushed when I was reading the newsletter this morning.
For sure.
All right. Well, we made it through the Harden saga, one way or another. We made it through. Another fucking weird saga that we made it through.
If you don't fuck with me,
that's it. Are you down with TTP?
then I won't fuck with you.
Like that.
If you don't fuck with me, then I won't fuck with you.
If you don't fuck with me,
Then I won't fuck with you.
but if you fuck with me,
I'm gonna fucking kill you!
Time for Plan B.